Alright guys, just a quick heads up, this video is a re-upload of an older On This Day in History On-Site episode that I did a year ago. But ever since I uploaded that, new information has surfaced about this topic, and so I am re-uploading it with said new information. On this day, April 22nd, 1992, a group called the Air Moves, founded by champion skydiver Dan Brodsky-Chenfield and his friend Richard Stewart, came all the way from Arizona all the way down to Paris, California, and founded the team consisting of Dan as the leader, Stewart as the cameraman, Troy Woodgary, James Lane, and Thomas Falzone. Together, they had high hopes of joining and winning the 1992 skydiving championships. So when they came here, they came from right here, boarded this exact plane, N141PV, or in aircraft terms, November 141 Papa Victor. After she was loaded with the skydivers, she went all the way down to this end of the runway right here. She took off, and after she took off and went into the sky, they jumped off all the skydivers, and Richard Stewart, being the cameraman, obviously recorded the entire jump. Here's some footage of that. After the jump, the plane came back, landed, and came back to this exact area right here. And after a little while, the Air Moves came back to this exact runway and boarded the same plane, getting ready for the second jump of the day. At around 11:05 a.m., all the skydivers boarded N141PV for her second flight of the day, and 4 out of the 5 Air Moves members were on board this flight. Where was the 5th one? Specifically, Richard Stewart. Well, Richard, while he was getting ready for the jump, the glass on his camera broke, and he told his friend, Dave Clark, to fill in for him on this jump. After the two teams boarded the plane left from the northern resting station and taxied down to runway 15. When they reached the end, pilot Roland Guilford put the engines to full throttle and the plane started to accelerate down the runway. Right about here is where they finally lifted off the ground, and they were originally supposed to keep ascending in this direction, but little did they know, something terrible would happen. So the plane was coming down the runway. She lifted off the ground, probably right here, and she was about here, 70 feet off the ground, when all of a sudden, her right engine all of a sudden failed. She started to lean to the left and started coming towards this area right here. The pilot, Roland Guilford, realized that the engine shut off, but in his panic, he accidentally put the dead engine into reverse, which caused the plane to snap roll at 180 degrees per second right before the plane crashed, right where those trees are. So the plane was right around this area in the sky when her engine failed. The plane started to lean to the left, started heading towards this area. The pilot tried turning off the dead engine, but in his doing so, he accidentally put it into reverse, and as the plane snap rolled into an 180 degree per second roll, she lost all lift and crashed right here, right where I'm standing.
April 22nd, the Twin Otter had fallen 70 feet, twisting into the ground with one engine dead.
There were at least 2 skydiving teams on board. One was a local team. They were practicing for the skydiving national championships. Another team from Holland was also on board the aircraft. We're not sure if there were any survivors.
Ambulances and firefighters arrived to the scene, but there wasn't really much they could do. Of the 22 people aboard the plane, 16 perished in the crash. That means only 6 people survived. Now the question I bet everyone is asking at this time is, what caused the right engine to fail? Well, a couple days prior, an earthquake struck Southern California. The earthquake damaged one of the fuel pumper's legs, and this fuel pump was located where the airport gets its fuel supply at. So Pat called them and said, hey, one of our things is broken, so how are we gonna get fuel? And the supplier told them, we could just send out one of our trucks and pump it through your filters and into your trucks. And Pat agreed, but little did he know, that fuel truck was filled to the brim with contaminated fuel. So that contaminated fuel would later get into N141PV and that would later cause the plane's right engine to fail before she would crash right over there. After the accident, November 141 Papa Victor was scrapped for parts. But if you come over here into the hangar, then you can actually still see the original rudder piece from the tail. After the wreckage was cleared away, the area has now been turned into a memorial park, which you can still visit to this day. Anyways, let's just take a minute to pay our respects to all the 16 victims of this horrible tragedy.